The Houston Texans officially have their secret weapon, and with training camp on the horizon, many Texans fans are interested to see how this develops with Jaylin Noel. So, in this video, we're going to give you all the details about him, his adjustment to Houston, as well as one key area where he can help this team thrive next season. All that right here on Texans Digest. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. We appreciate you joining us as always, and we're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. We're inching our way there. So if you want to stay up to date on all of your Texans content, you want to be kept in the loop and not miss a thing, daily videos of your favorite team, go ahead, hit that subscribe button below. Now, as far as today's story, we're talking about an impact player for the Houston Texans, a new player for the Texans, as uh, the Houston Texans have a potentially loaded wide receiver room heading into the 2025 season. But one player is quietly poised to make a significant impact. As training camp approaches, keep an eye on Jaylen Noel, a third round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And there's a reason why the Texans traded up to secure him. One of those reasons could be, oh, you can have that Iowa State pairing with him and Jaden Higgins. Maybe you can bring their chemistry. They were roommates in college. Maybe you can bring that chemistry here to Houston. I hope that works. That sounds like a great idea. They're both very, very talented. But there's also Jaylen Noel in his own right. He is a very talented wide receiver. There's a reason why the Houston Texans decided to draft him in that third round. And Noel, the fastest receiver on the roster with a blazing 4.39 40-yard dash. He brings a dynamic skill set. His ability to get open quickly and stretch the field could open up opportunities for the entire offense. So he could draw a lot of attention with his speed. He's very, very fast, and I'm going to get more into depth as to how that can help this team next season. Last season, the Texans' passing game struggled to find consistency beyond star wideout Nico Collins. While Collins remains one of the NFL's elite receivers, he can't carry the load alone. And that's something that Texans fans were hoping was fixed in the offseason. It seems like it has been, considering the signing of Christian Kirk, drafting two wide receivers, as well as signing guys like Barrios and Watson to try to fill out those roster spots. And so they have put a lot of attention to the wide receiving room, which they absolutely needed to. Nico Collins was doing a lot of the heavy lifting last season, of course, with the injury to Tank Dell. The timetable for his return is very, very questionable. We will not see him for a very long time. So it's good that they're putting an emphasis on these wide receivers in that wide receiver room. And going back to Jaylen Noel, of how just important he can be to this team. He gets compared a lot to Christian Kirk, actually, his new Houston Texan teammate. And so hopefully there can be a sense of a mentorship between the two, especially, they're going to spend a lot of training camp and practices and all offseason workouts with each other. And so the comparison is there. You can learn a lot from a guy like Christian Kirk, who has been in the NFL for quite some time, has some experience, has provided very valuable uh, plays and touchdown receptions for the teams he's played with previously. And so Noel has a good mentor already in Christian Kirk. Of course, you are learning from Nico Collins, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So it all pans out really, really well. And I want to take you to this tweet of Todd McShay, who was kind of breaking down Jaylen Noel's game that I think was just a phenomenal breakdown of this. This was back in February before the NFL draft. And so he had this to say about a guy like Jaylen Noel, who said he knows exactly what he's getting when you draft this guy for whatever team ended up drafting him. Teams that pulled the trigger in round 2, it ended up being round 3, should have a difference maker in slot for many, many years. And that is what Noel provides, okay? Yes, we have Nico Collins. He's our number 1. Christian Kirk, which is our number 2. Tank Dell would be your number 3 if he was not hurt. But you have to fill out those wide receiver spots to give your team that extra edge. Yes, he is undersized, but he has a lot of experience playing. He gets those reps. That's what he got when he was at Iowa State. And the one thing you want in player is a player that played a lot and a player that played consistently and was improving year to year to year. He was a 4-year player at Iowa State. He was a 3-year starter at Iowa State who has a solid football team in the Big 12. They're a really solid group of guys, and it's fine with 3 years, 202 to 586, 12.8, 18. He put up solid numbers, and in his senior year alone, these were his stats for his senior year. He had 80 receptions, 1,194 yards, 14.9 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns, and averaged 85 yards per game. And if you want to take a look at Jaylen Noel's highlights, you're just gonna simply you're going to see a lot of just deep ball completions. He is so quick that he gave his team at Iowa State a deep threat. If you look at those highlights, he is catching balls 30, 40 yards down the field. And that is exactly what he can bring to the Houston Texans. He gives this team an additional deep ball threat. He can be our deep ball guy and really, strike whenever teams are not expecting or strike when teams are expecting, but still his quickness puts him over the edge to give this team more yards to go downfield and score more touchdowns. Last year, CJ Stroud's deep ball was not all there, right? He was a little bit inaccurate compared to his NBA QB counterparts. Now, a lot of that could just be due to the offensive line and how atrocious they were last season. But at the same time, when you had a wide receiver room that, suffered a lot of injuries like Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins being out for a lengthy period of time, all of those things have an effect on that deep ball. You have to get those reps and you have to build that trust in completing a play like that because it's a very dangerous play, right? It can easily lead to an interception. So getting some young guys who are healthy, that can, become that role. A guy like Noel fits that perfectly. That is why this team drafted him in the third round. Selecting two receivers in back-to-back rounds is not a very common thing for any team to do, let alone from the same team, let alone players who were roommates in college. And the Jaylin Noel and Jaden Higgins are very, very close. Of course, I can go on about Jaden Higgins as well, right? I'm sure at some point we will have a video discussing him and what he brings to the table. But at the same time, right, getting a guy like Jaylen Noel provides so much value to this offense, giving it more options so that can leave Nico Collins an easier time in running his routes, right? Because he's not going to get double teamed if they know that Jaylen Noel is in that slot and going for that deep ball. So there's a lot of more things that defenses have to be mindful of when playing against us, the Houston Texans. So it was a third round pick this year, the 79th overall pick. And I believe that he will be this secret weapon for this team. He can do it all in that deep ball route. Now, of course, he can still do a lot of different things. I don't know if I finished this quote over here from Todd McShay. He uncovers in a flash. Route suddenness and savvy are outstanding. He's got it all: tempos, leverage, speed outs, body control, explosion, out of breaks, and spatial awareness, which is very, very key for any wide receivers. Being aware of where your surroundings are and where those open spots are. Making CJ Stroud's life so much easier. I feel so bad for CJ Stroud for last year, just him getting hit almost every single play. So anything to make his job easier is good with me, right? It was good with a lot of Texans fans out there, and so that's why this wide receiver can do a lot of great things. His hands and radius are smaller than ideal, but he's reliable and tough. When you're a player that plays for Iowa State, that is a football team that prides itself on toughness. They competed in the Big 12 for a very, very long time, and they were able to get some wins and some competitive games against big teams like OU and Texas. And so that whole brand of football has been instilled in a guy like Jaylen Noel. And so he can bring that to the Houston Texans. He's tough, he's gritty, he's scrappy, he's going to get the job done despite being undersized. And so it's players like that are key to building a championship team, right? Those are championship players you want to go out. I love the Iowa State football program. This is a great a player that comes from that program. Not alone, we're getting two of those players coming from that program. And so it's going to be very just awesome to see Jaylen Noel in Houston. His 20.8 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl was the sixth fastest among all players and the second fastest wide receiver. He was the second fastest wide receiver at the Senior Bowl. We are getting someone who is very, very special in their speed. The way I kind of view it, and I'm going to say this comparison, and they're totally different players, but just in this instance, right? I think of a guy like Xavier Worthy on the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, different players, but in this aspect, I want to share. Xavier Worthy is able to be their deep ball threat. They drafted him to be that additional option for Patrick Mahomes to go downfield and try to just throw one up there for a guy like Xavier Worthy. I feel like Jaylen Noel could be that guy for the Houston Texans, that guy that goes downfield and is able to catch those balls despite him being undersized. He can still use that speed and use his hands to grab balls down the field and give us opportunities to operate in the red zone. And so I think that is all a very, very great thing, great move by the Houston Texans. We'll see how it all pans out during training camp to see how this team develops together. And if you're wondering, how Jaylen Noel is feeling about his time in Houston so far, here's a little. I'm trying to share this quote. He was on a podcast recently, and he had this to say about Houston, saying, "Yeah, they got ponds everywhere. And Galveston, if you want saltwater fishing, is an hour away. Just freshwater bass fishing, something I like to do to get away from football. Me and my guy Jaden both fish. We've got a TikTok, and we haven't posted on it in a minute, but we're going to try to get back to it once we get settled in and stuff." And so, he's very happy to be here. He understands. He likes the city so far. He drives a 2021 red 2021 Camry. I don't know if that changes your mind about him, but I just think little things like that is cool to see our players adjust to Houston and just be themselves and just bring their talents and their personality to the Houston Texans. Again, this front office drafted these guys for a reason. They believe in not only Jaylin Noel, but Jaden Higgins, this Iowa State duo wide receivers. And so all very exciting things in this upcoming training camp. And so I want to turn it back to you guys. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Jaylen Noel as training camp approaches? Do you think he is this secret weapon that I also believe him to be? Let me know in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one of Texans Digest. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.